What is up, everyone? Happy Wednesday to you. We are making it through this week. And what a week it has been. It's just been so crazy. Absolutely crazy. I cannot wait until the weekend. Wanted to just do this quick live stream because you guys know I'm so random, and obviously this is an unplanned live stream. So obviously if you follow this content and you missed it and you're not being blocked by the algorithms. I actually just had a friend of mine tell me that, oh, I couldn't even see your post in my feeds. I thought I was subscribed and I somehow got unsubscribed. And I'm like, man, YouTube and these little demons who are trying to control narratives, they're doing all kinds of slick shit to suppress objective content, where it's not leaning on one side, it's just being unbiased and real. They don't like that. Them demons hate that. So we understand. But if you missed this, definitely catch it on the replay. Hit the subscribe button, like the content. That kind of helps fight the demonic algorithms. But God gonna send the message to who he needs to send the message to. Can't no demons stop the messages. That's all I can say about that. But off of that, I'm just thinking about Satan's world. We live in Satan's system of things. This is his system of things. And obviously, you know, the inclinations of people, like the Bible said, it has gone from bad to worse. And so, there are so many factors that influence the inclinations of people, and upbringing. Again, we live in this world of social media for the last couple of decades, and so you have a lot of influences on the minds of people who are very impressionable, and they don't have a sense of self-worth enough to make their own conclusions, draw their own conclusions. And even when people are seeking to learn from me, I will give you the roadmap. Like, I'll give you the foundations of kind of how I drew my conclusions. But I always tell people, go and draw your own conclusions about things. Look at patterns, kind of look at your life, look at the things you see reoccurringly, and make your own assessments. But off that, I'm looking at this Nolan Wells situation. And there's been some, release audio, enhanced audio concerning that situation. And honestly, it does not make the young people involved. They don't look any better. They were already looking suspect. People try to play the victim role on these kids because they're so young. But like high schoolers, they gang together and they kill other high schoolers all the damn time. This is not a one-off situation. And like I said in my other video, I don't like to attribute every single thing to racism because there could be some human factors at play that impacts the outcome of any given situation, among just two humans, whether they're black, white, whatever. In this situation, I was very careful not to go with the racism narrative because we're dealing with young boys, we're dealing with egos, and I'm thinking that there was something deeper happening out there beyond racism that triggered a situation. Now you got all, and I was looking at Tisa Tells and just her breakdown of things, and you got a lot of suspect things going on. You got a lot of motive involved as well. And it was funny because like about a week or so ago, someone was talking about how Nolan and one of those boys that were in the mix, that they were part of rival schools, like, or something like that. But I think what it was maybe Nolan was very good at playing football, and apparently one of those boys had some kind of scholarship, or he was a big deal in the NFL. But then there's this Katie girl that kept being mentioned in the mix too. And you get the sense that Katie was the catalyst for why Nolan might have met his demise if she was being claimed by somebody else from a much wealthier family. Sometimes, again, pride and ego. It's like And especially when you're dealing with young white boys who have bought into stigmas of race, they're automatically intimidated by black dudes. They really are. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. And I think if a lot of white dudes were like real honest with themselves, from birth, you were bred to be intimidated by black people, to look at them as inferior in some kind of way. Whether it was overtly or covertly, a lot of white men are conditioned to be intimidated by black boys. And it's that conditioning that make them feel more empowered when there's one black guy in the equation and it's a bunch of them. A lot of stupid shit can come in, and that's where the racism part comes in. Like I tell people, you got to look at the individual intent in any situation, the anybody involved, their individual intents and motive, and then you got to look at the collective situation and the collective outcome. What's the collective outcome of this situation because of racism? No. But from an individual side, there could have been some hidden racism that drove the behaviors that led to the outcome, right? So if one of those white boys was running on any type of biasness or racism or whatnot that he felt like could empower him in a situation where he can make a black boy feel weaker, right? That could lead to all kinds of things. Carmelo Anthony has shown white dudes that you really shouldn't let your intimidation make you do drastic things. My brother and I had an argument about that Carmelo Anthony thing, and he was like, Austin Metcalf and his brother were authorized by the coach to secure the area. I'm like, well, then the coaches are responsible for Austin's death because you should not put a child in the authority to play security in a section. First of all, another child will never receive the directions from another child. It has to come from a person of authority. So if you're going to run with the narratives that the coaches told them to clear the section or secure the section, then it was the coach's fault for putting them in a dangerous situation. They're students. All right. They're not security. There's a difference between, hey, sit here, reserve these seats, and ask somebody to leave a seat, make a request for somebody to leave a seat. That's when you are putting in, the exchange for that student in danger, especially when they are giving direction or exuding authority over another student or one of their peers. So again, even with the Carmelo Anthony situation, I hear all the little narratives about that, but even still, there's a lot of root cause there, and I think Austin Metcalf's dad proved that he was a racist, and Austin was being raised by a racist. And unfortunately, because his father did not teach him to be a truly decent person, right? The boy got killed, unfortunately. And if his coaches put him in a situation where he was acting as a security authority, they got his ass killed, right? You never put a student over the authority of another student. That's the quickest way to cause harm to another student. You always put the adults in the authority of the kids. That minimizes so much. It really does. But anyways, off that, just wanted to kind of catch up with this Nolan Wells situation because a lot of people are on the microphone. They were like, this is not racism and, wait and see. And, Nolan drowned. It's possible he drowned and blah, blah, blah. And the math ain't mathing on the situation. I think this is a situation where you have some privileged white people who have enough money possibly to make things go away. And this has been the case with a lot of situations. A lot of situations where young, maybe not so well off black kids have lost their lives being in the company of some privileged ass white kids that felt like they were entitled to do whatever the fuck they wanted to do to their so-called friend. And this is where I kind of teach my kids too. Being a friend to somebody does not mean that that person have authority over you, and you do not have authority over them. If they do not want to be your friend anymore, you need to respect that and move on. Nobody owns anybody. Even when you're in a relationship, you don't own that person, because there could be factors in which communication and connection will be cut off. And you need to be able to accept that you don't own that person, and you need to go on about your business if that person decides not to deal with you. You know what I mean? A lot of people are, they have this weird sense of ownership where, oh, you're my friend, so I can put my hands all over you. It's like, no, the fuck you can't. You better ask me just like any other person. You don't own me. You don't own my body. You don't have any entitlement over me. And that's where some people are very disconnected in certain relationships. They really are. They think they own people. So then it's like, I get to own what you do, control what you do. Now, I don't know if Nolan and some other boy were fighting over a girl, but that's definitely probable motive why an ego will cause a situation to get out of hand. It really is. So we will see what happens with Nolan Wells. We pray for the family, and all the families involved, because whatever comes out, somebody, if this is a situation in which one of those boys intentionally harmed that boy, they need to go to jail. They don't deserve to be walking the streets, living their lives, and they have just ended somebody else's life. You don't deserve to live when you allowed your pride and your ego in a moment to end somebody else's life. And the thing is about people who get away with that, they never really get the chance to live good lives either, because guilt is a motherfucker. Guilt is a motherfucker. Some of these people running around talking about, I'm depressed, I got hidden trauma. You're guilty about some shit that you have not reconciled. So guilt is a motherfucker. Even if you think you're getting away with shit, you're not getting away with shit, because things tend to haunt people. Things tend to come back and haunt people who are guilty over and over and over and over again. And nothing in their lives really work out well, because again, guilt is a heavy burden to carry. All right, what's going on? CNN said he was drunk and drowned. CNN says a lot of shit. I don't trust CNN. I don't trust any major news outlet. So I definitely can't believe how they try to tongue twist reality to create a narrative or paint a narrative. So I don't trust CNN, but you can go ahead and do that, Randy. I'm sorry, the black heart was not played, Randy, but you're probably a white guy. So anytime you hear white guy, it probably triggers your little feelings. So we can't take you seriously. What's going on, Denzi? But, when you understand human dynamics beyond social constructs, then you will be able to digest the things that I am saying. But if you're one of those old ignorants, then obviously it's going to trigger you more than inspire you to think more broadly about things. But anyways, you guys, what was else on my radar? I got to jump off soon. I found that leaked audio, or that audio that was released on the Nolan Wells situation, is pretty damning. It's pretty damning because you hear people in the background, seemingly, it sounds like, in the presence of a man down. That's what it sounded like to me when I'm listening to that audio. I'm hearing young people panicking over something that has happened to them, right? And maybe in that tussle bustle, whatever happened on that boat or whatever like that, Nolan probably got slammed, which caused maybe a defect in that boat. But whatever, or they could have just used the boat as an excuse to create a crisis for why they possibly had to leave Nolan, knowing that Nolan probably was injured on that boat very severely, to the point where he was hurt. They wasn't sure if he was dead or not. They did not want to risk their lives, their careers, or their families being upset with them. So they dumped his body and left him. That sounds more plausible to me. That you had a bunch of young people panicking, an ego trip got out of control, dude went way too far, The other kids are in the background acknowledging that somebody went too far, something happened to somebody, and they're even wondering, is somebody dead? Why is this conversation even happening if you're only dealing with a boat that has an obstruction in it that's causing you to sink? I would think that everybody in the background would be freaking out about the boat sinking, about water coming into the boat. I wouldn't really expect for people in the background to be acting like there's a crisis situation with somebody on the boat, that somebody was possibly injured, possibly dead. This is the conversation in the background as this kid is calling these dispatchers to help him with his boat. So the conversations in the background, if this audio is accurate, they do not connect. And again, Mississippi has a track record. They have a track record that they do not want to get over. America is 250 years old, right? Just celebrated the 250th birthday of America. And Mississippi has still kept this nation behind in the way that they choose to do business with the citizens of this nation. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. It seems like the local officials are protecting people. They don't care about justice for the person who has died. They only care about protecting these well-off families, these probably high-paying taxpayers, these people who give to probably local political campaigns, right? And they're trying to figure out how to make this go away. And if you got enough money, connections to try to do shit like that, I can believe that that is what's happening. But they did not calculate that Nolan Wells' family would include Benjamin Crump in the equation. See, it's kind of good to have some of these race baiters, race hustlers in the mix, because the one thing we do love about the race hustlers is when they see a profit center, they're going to go after it. And so they're not going to let shit like this die. And so that's probably the one thing that those people did not calculate, is that Benjamin Crump would be in the equation. That this is not going to be something that just goes away and die, that it's going to be heavily investigated. Their families are going to be heavily scrutinized. Their children are going to be scrutinized. And guess what? When the heat is too hot, one of those fucking kids are going to sing like a canary. Because they're going to be thinking about their own lives and what they did not do. And the more they go along to get along, the more they become implicated, the more they become accessories to something that happened to that boy. So, I mean, I expect that somebody's going to sing like a canary. I expect that there's actually going to be an arrest out of this, and somebody's dreams are going to be shattered because they could not control themselves in a moment, and they killed another person over some dumbass shit. Killing somebody over a girl is some dumbass shit, if that was the premise for why they were fighting. So that's just what it is. And we, like I said, we pray for all of the families involved, because this is probably going to be something that will not go away immediately. And even the city officials, they are going to be demonized for the way that they handled this. And how the hell do you send a body off and the throat is missing? They're requesting a second autopsy, and you're not even sending the whole fucking body to be examined. So a lot of suspect things here. And I think that, again, depending on how they're handling those other body parts that didn't make it to the second autopsy, and if it's not being handled well, again, these are decomposing body parts, unfortunately, right? And the more decomposed something is, the more difficult it is to determine manners of death and things like that. You don't even have to be a forensic person to kind of know these things. It's just obvious, right? That's how decomposition works. So, a lot of suspect things happening in the Nolan Wells situation. And, just let me know what you guys think. Um, and then, it's funny. There's this other thing that came on my radar. And if you not black, then you might want to check out of this discussion because this is not for you. But if you want to be educated about how black people think, by all means, stay along. But there was a biracial woman. She's very upset with brown skinned black people, black women right now, because apparently Doja Cat and Lotto just dropped a video. And these are two biracial women. And she's saying that, let me see if I can pull up this video so you can hear what she's saying. Now, I have my opinion, and it's a very unpopular opinion. And I just want to put that out there right away, about biracial people. And, we've all been told that one drop of blood makes you black. I'm not in that camp. All right. So I just want to put that out there right away. I'm not in the camp that one drop of blood makes an individual black. All right. And so I'm going to this is my post today on my private. And, I'm going to play this video of this woman, let her speak. And then I'm going to read, my response to what she's saying.
So I'm tired. I'm speaking up to the women that are on here saying that
this is a biracial woman.
Is some sort of biracial agenda. You are the problem and you're ignorant as fuck. I know black women don't have the nerve to hop on this here internet and start speaking about people's skin color. I know we're not doing that. Because let somebody get on here and speak about somebody dark skin and it's a whole problem. Too many times I have seen dark-skinned women get on this here app or this here internet and don't see nothing wrong with them speaking on biracial or light-skinned women.
First of all, I don't see black women just talking about biracial women. That's not a conversation really for us. We don't wake up thinking about biracial women at all. Like on the roster of things that whole black women think about, a biracial woman is the least. And it's kind of crazy that they just give themselves so much credit in other people's minds and thoughts. I look at a lot of content. The algorithms feed me a lot of content. The one thing that the algorithms have never repetitively fed me was content of my women talking shit about biracial women. So these people create that victimhood for themselves so that they can have a limitation. But go ahead, girl, with your exaggeration.
It's just cool. Y'all are allowed to have your opinion, which y'all are. But the moment a light-skinned woman says anything about a dark-skinned woman in any kind of way, she's a colorist, she's jealous, she's not protecting black women. Must I bring up Clarissa Shields? Because when anybody speaks on Clarissa Shields, we're hating on a black woman. We're jealous. Meanwhile, these are two black women.
They are not two black women. Doja Cat and Lotto are not two black women. They are two biracial women. And, this is kind of maybe a trigger for some people, like I said, but in my school of thought and the camp that I exist in, biracial people are not black people. They are biracial people. They are in their own category, right? They are whatever mix they are or whatever, that is their own category. And, I go back to ancient times, the tribes of Israel. And if you are a believer, right, you're going to understand what I'm saying. Because again, the Bible, the reason why people are afraid to read the scrolls or the Bible, in which people know, is because it presents a lot of uncomfortable truths. It presents a lot of uncomfortable truth, right? It presents truths that are contradictory to how we are being bred to think today. So when you go back to the tribes of Israel, right, they were not allowed to nation mix. And then when you go back and you look at what happened post Babylon exile, like what happened when the Israelites returned to their land after Cyrus the Great helped them to get back to their land with tax breaks, right? They did an inventory of their people by genetics. They didn't have DNA tests back then. So, how were the Israelites determining their people? Obviously, through the Table of Nations. That was their genetic blueprint. And check out my article, right? Because I did write an article about how the Table of Nations will help us to know who people are. Despite migration and conquering, there are some reoccurring things about every human being that will recycle from this time back into antiquities. And so you kind of always know the bloodlines of people, whether they can create little nation designations or not. You kind of know what people are. So the Israelites were using genetics based off of facial features. And so when you read Ezra and you even go into Malachi, you realize that the Israelites had a problem with nation mixing. They had a lot of people, when they came back, they looked at these wives, they looked at those kids, and they did not look like Israelites. Did the Israelites let those people stay in the tribe? No, they were exiled from Israel. They were exiled from Israel. The men, they could stay, but they had to get rid of their wives and their children and return them back to their nations because they were not considered Israel. So, again, when you talk about biracial people, right, they are not Black people. They are, if they're half Black, they're just half Black people, but they're not whole Black people. And the thing is, biracial people have the luxury of choosing a culture. Biracial people have the luxury of hating the culture of one of their parents if they so desire. They have that luxury of picking a side. And so, again, I think that some people, this may be an uncomfortable opinion, right? But biracial people are a category of their own. And to me, I don't feel like they should have to feel compelled to choose. If you embrace the Black culture, that's fine. You're just biracial in the Black culture. You're half Black. You're embracing one side of you, and that's okay. Not to say that you should dismiss the culture of your other side. But I hate it when you run into these biracial people who you clearly are conflicted in yourself and you're putting that shit on Black people. You are half. You are not full Black. You are biracial. And I think that biracial people should be okay with being just that. You're in your own category. And that's not to be rude or dismissive or say that you can't immerse yourself in Black culture. I'm not saying that. But I personally don't believe that they are whole Black people because they have the options of choosing another culture and actually being against Black people if it benefits them. So let me know what you guys think about this topic as well. I know it's a sensitive topic, Virginia versus love, obviously interracial relationships to me have been something that has been fostered in the American culture for a while. I say people do whatever they feel like. Me personally, I've been open to it once upon a time in my life, but culturally, I feel like as I get older, I feel more comfortable with aligning with my own men. I think mindset wise, culture wise, history wise, it just makes sense for me personally. And but that's not to say that I don't have amazing white people that, to me enhance my human experience in some way in a positive way. I just think when it comes to legacies and building families, I personally think that Black people should be aligning with their own people. And that takes the ambiguity out of, who our children feel like they are. So let me know what you think. I'm pretty sure this triggers people with biracial kids and all that stuff, but reality is reality. They are in their own category. You created that category the minute you mixed races. And that's just what it is. The minute you mix races, because like it's like a crayon box. If I mix two colors together, it's not going to be one dominant color. It's going to be a whole new color. It's going to be in a whole new category of its own. That's how it works, right? If I mix a white and red crayon, is the new color white? Is the new color even red? It may be a spectrum of red, right? But it creates its own new color. That's how I look at biracial people. They're neither, if it's a black and white combination, that person is neither white or black. They are biracial. They are mixed. They are a category of their own. And which culture identity they choose to take is going to be their choice. But let's not like dismiss the fact that they do have a choice, and they have a choice so much that they could be bred to hate the culture of the other parent. They have that luxury as well as too. So, that's just my take. You said mulatto. Mulatto is not black. She is exactly what she said, exactly how they called them back in the 1800s. They were mulattoes, right? They weren't Negroes, they weren't white, they were mulattoes, meaning that they were their own little category. All right. If you procreate with somebody from a blatantly racist family, you are dumb. And you know what though? A lot of people do. A lot of people procreate with people who are overtly racist. Have you ever seen? I was looking at this video of this black girl. She was with this white guy, and he was calling her all kinds of racial slurs, and she was just joking about it like that. This is how we joke. But I'm like, I would be repulsed, right? I would be very, very repulsed to know that my white man would even want to joke with me like that. Like, why would a white man take up with a black woman and feel like it's okay for him to not protect her from the things that have demonized her people? Instead, you're going to go and joke with her and call her slurs that have demonized her people, and her bed wench ass is just sitting up there geeking and laughing at the shit instead of checking you. So it's like, yeah, it's a weird psychology because there's a lot of self-hating black people, but they take up with white people that overtly hate black people and turn around and have offspring by these people. And this is how you get people probably like Hodge twins. You know what I mean? Biracial looking folks that can't stand black folks. So, the argument is legitimate over here based off of observations. You know what I mean? Biracial people have the choice of choosing which side and culture they want to be on. And therefore, they're not black people. The Hodge twins are not black people. You can tell by their dialogue that they don't even want to be black people. No matter how much they look like more like black looking men, right? They don't want to be black men. They talk about black people like a dog. They are products of black people that could not stand their own people, and these are their offspring. So when I say that biracial people are not black people because they can pick a side, that is what I'm talking about. That is a prime example of what I am talking about. She was obviously low IQ, low self-esteem, or both. It's lust over logic. I agree. I agree. I agree. She definitely, but a lot of times though, black women, and this is true, there are a lot of old school black women that have literally bred their daughters to marry a white man, that they would be better off marrying a white man. And so a lot of black women have it in their mind that number one, they're insecure about their blackness, their 4C hair, and trying to over explain that their hair wants to be drawn up and not straight like a white woman and all that shit like that. A lot of black women are insecure about their blackness. And for them to have validation about it or to feel beautiful, being aligned with the white man is going to be their ambition. And you see this with a lot of dark black women too, with these white men, because number one, they don't want dark kids. There are a lot of black people who do not want their kids to be dark. They want them to be a light, because they, in their perception, if there's gonna be a token nigga, my kids will qualify to be the top tokens because they're white, lighter. And that's where the light skin privilege come in. They are breeding light skin privileged children on purpose because they don't want their kids to have the dark skin black experience. You know what I mean? Dang, I actually put dude on timeline out because I thought he said the N word. My bad. Oh, my bad. Well, shoot, you want it, Ghetto Planet. We're intolerable, even if I think, don't play with Ghetto Planet, my moderator. Even if he think you want some weird shit, he gonna get rid of your ass. My dog, my dog, my dog. But anyways, y'all, shout out to Ghetto Planet. I'm glad we're able to catch up with each other. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what y'all think about that Nolan Wells new audio that dropped. All right. Sounds like a lot more was going on that boat during that emergency call about the sinking boat than they wanted us to believe. And I don't think that those kids thought that that audio would be released. I don't think that they probably thought that the audio caught the background of what they're saying. So a lot of these lies, they're going to have to explain a lot of stuff. They're going to have to explain a lot of stuff because this is audio that has been released straight from that boating dispatcher. And behind the scenes, you have young kids who are panicking, talking about, is he dead? Wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up. Who are they telling to wake the fuck up? So listen to that audio. Again, it would be a great day in the justice system if a white privileged kid who is guilty actually sees justice. And if he doesn't see justice, his parents is going to have a liability on their hands for the rest of, his life, because that kid's going to be haunted. They're going to be haunted. They're going to be screwed up. And that's pretty much how you're going to know who killed Nolan Wells. The kid that grows up the most screwed up because he got away with murdering somebody is going to be the one who actually murdered the kid. It's just reality of the universe, really, and human behaviors. But even Officer Tatum thinks it's murder now. You know what? Officer Tatum, that dude, like Uncle Ruckus, that dude, he will defend white people to the moon. And I don't even see how white people can actually respect Officer Tatum. Like, to me, you gotta be just a weird ass person to just, want somebody to, stroke your ego so much that your ego can't even see when the shit that person is saying don't make no fucking sense. That's an indicator that you're lower IQ to be listening to Brandon Tatum tongue twist about bullshit all the time. But this dude will do everything in his power to justify why a white person, and I won't even say white person, I'm going to say a Zionist. A Zionist. Because Zionists are the most wicked white looking people on the planet. So, and they are the ones who really, to me, I mean, again, you got to separate white folks from Zionists. If you don't separate all the white folks from the Zionists, right, you're going to be hating the wrong people, right? I always tell people there's a difference between black people and need growths, because some of our people need growths. You know what I mean? They need growth in their brains and their disposition. But there's also a difference between white people and Y people, the WHY people, aka the Zionists. There's a difference between these white folks. And you got to know the difference between them, because some of the white people are kind of cool. The Y people, the Zionists, wicked to their core. Wicked to their core. And, obviously they're the ones who are ruining America right now. And they're the ones who foster the racism. But Brandon Tatum, that buck dancing dude, I swear, he will do everything in his power look like Boo Boo the Fool And then he'll just move on finding something else to talk shit about black people about when he end up looking like Boo Boo the Fool. So I am very curious to see how hard he goes on this now that that audio was released. You know what I mean? Just ridiculous. But anyways, y'all, shout out Ghetto Planet. I'll see you, Talmud Tatum. You know, here's the thing. I don't trust any black person that goes hard for Israel. And I think that if Israel were paying shills to be pro Israel, they really shouldn't be paying black people because no black person really that I know think about Israel. No black person that I know even looks at Israel as the place that they keep trying to project that it is. Most black people know that those people over there are not the people of the Bible. So when you get buck dancers like Brandon Tatum, he's going to get ethered every time on a conversation about Israel because he's only going to have talking points that those people gave him. And really, it's not his job to really care about the shit that he's talking about as long as these people are giving him his biscuits. You know what I mean? That man over there again, biscuits. He don't have to believe in the shit that he's really saying. It was like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was getting them biscuits from Israel. But then when he got tired of their asses, right? He like, all right, I'm over your biscuits. And the worst thing you can do is cut off somebody that's been paying you as leverage to do some shit for them. Especially when you have a huge platform. Like Charlie Kirk was writing his own death sentence the moment he was doing that. The moment like the thing is with these people who take up with these Zionist people is, you got like people who are not even Jewish, not even attached to any of that ideological shit, right? But they're pro Israel, right? Because it's profitable. On any other day, they're not profiting off of Israel. They don't give a fuck about Israel. And that's just true. Israel don't give a fuck about us. So we give as many fucks about them as a people that they care about us. So it's like no real American outside of a neocon propagandist and a Zionist who is akin to a Satanist and a blasphemer because they always running around with their demonic ass cross too. Some of them, if they don't have that demonic ass star, right? Trying to add some virtue to their wickedness. You know what I mean? These people are disgusting. And there are a lot of people who can be paid to be on that cause and not give a fuck about Israel. And that's what, like, and even the Israelis, I don't want to say the Israelis, I'm talking about their government, the ones that are paying off this government all the fucking time, right? Even they know that they are paying for people to like them. You're paying for people to like you. You're creating scenarios to make yourself a victim so niggas will feel, or people will feel sorry for you. So it's like, here's the thing, people like Brandon Tatum, they're getting their biscuits, right? It was just like Azalea Banks, right? She was out there pro-Israel. They pay me $7,000 a post. Some other people, they pay me $7,000 a post. So a lot of these people are getting paid to push out pro-Israel sentiments, and behind closed doors, they can give a fuck about Israel. And the way that they're even executing the propaganda for Israel, you can tell half of these people don't even believe it themselves. It's like, look, I'm just getting coins. Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel has a right to secure its borders and expand its, settlements, and they have the right to genocide the Palestinians who have been there far longer than those German and Polish people that call themselves Jews, right? They have a right to genocide those people and take their land. They have a right to do that, right? Because these fake people want to say that there's some people of the Bible that when really their ancestry, their DNA does not even match the people that should actually be in that region. And that's why they're going to keep getting skin cancers like the ancient Canaanites and Edomites did in that region because they should not be there. It's not even a fact about if Israel has the right to exist. That's just the land, right? You are literally talking about a government that was propped up in 1948. that is literally pretending to be a people in the Bible that they weren't. And again, I would say that, the Canaanites have their land back. All right. And they're trying to maintain their right to be in that land. It's not Israelites in that land. Those are Canaanites. And if you read the Bible, right, the Hebrew Israelites, they went into the land of Canaan with Joshua, and they subdued multiple Canaanite nations, and they took over that land. So what these people are doing is just mocking the Bible. Like, I've never not thought that what the people over there in Israel are doing is a satanic mockery of the scriptures. That's all they're doing. You know what I mean? And you got these so-called Christian Zionists, right, who are enabling this because they don't know the fucking Bible. They know doctrines. They know what that disgusting family called the Habsburgers or Habsburgs, right? Who pretty much manned the influence of the Holy Roman Empire for centuries. Those demonic inbreeding Canaanites were manning the Holy Roman Empire. And the Christian Zionists got their lovely little cross from a Canaanite named Constantine, who said that he saw it in a vision that told him to conquer. Conquer what? Conquer what? Conquer souls with a religion so that you can stray them to their death. And that's exactly what Christianity has done for so many people. That's why you see so many demonically inclined Christians running around with that cross, that demonic symbol, doing all kinds of wicked shit. But anyways, understand the scrolls, and when you understand the scrolls, you will divorce a lot of these demonic doctrines that are really founded on supremacy of Canaanites among other human beings. But I can't wait for Iran to obliterate Israel. The neocons are low IQ warmongers fighting high IQ militaries. That's why the West is losing. Israel, I'm sorry, they are put the government of Israel, and honestly, I try to separate the people from the government, right? Because you do have the Israeli people, and some of them may not be, just like Americans, right? We don't rock with everything that our government is doing, right? We don't, like, there are some Americans that rock with what these demonic people are doing, but we don't rock with what our government is doing, right? A lot of people hate the United States government because of the wickedness that it has fostered around the world, right? I would venture to say that's the same with these people they call Israelis, right? Not to be confused with Israelites, right? These Israeli people, all these foreign people, from all these different European lands that call themselves Jews coming together in what they believe is a homeland, you know, right? I can imagine that these people are not super supportive in everything that their government is doing. Not all of those people. Of course, you got some demonic Israelis. Obviously, those are Satan's chosen people for the most part, you know. But, there are some people who are true practitioners of a notion of Judaism, pure Judaism, right? And these people aren't terrible people, right? They're really just trying to follow the law, be decent people, and they don't agree with any of this supremacy of settlement stuff. They understand the history enough to know that what their government is doing and what they have done is wicked and wrong. So, I don't want to paint a blanket around all Israeli people, but their government is demonic and it's fucked up. They and honestly, we can't even say that it's just theirs because America enables genocide. We have enabled Israel to genocide. And this will go in history. America will have its fall as a genocide enabling nation under Trump and Biden. Both of them enabled genocides. Democrats and Republicans enable genocide. Anybody in Congress, anybody who in these periods of time, right, they are genocide enablers and nothing more. Even if you were paid by APAC for a vote for a genocide, you are a genocide enabler. And look, all of this stuff has a religious premise, right? It really does, right? So these satanic people, you're gonna face the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You are individually. There is no collective judgment. You're going to individually see it. And so, as I see these people out here killing folks in mass, I look at, there's the decision makers, there's the nations, and then there's the people within the nations that enable the decision, and individually they will get their judgments. So I'm not worried, and those judgments are going to be beyond what any human can do. It's just going to be a series of unfortunate events that happen with these people, and they deserve it. But, anyways, you guys, no one read your racist comment. We always have one of Satan's chosen people coming here talking their foolishness with their weak bloodlines that they swear are strong. But, anyways, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Again, we covered sensitive topics over here, and some of them may not be popular opinions, but they are opinions based off of patterns. And if you're too blind or ignorant to see them, then that's none of our business. Keep it moving. But thanks a lot, Ghetto Planet, for moderating. And you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Love your neighbors as yourself. If you would not disrespect or abuse yourself, do not disrespect or abuse your neighbor. Bye.